All right, so we're 10 days out from the start of the season, and it feels like there's a lot of storylines to follow. There's a lot of players to follow. So what I've done, I've got all 31 teams on the board. I went alphabetically by division, and I'm going to do this. I want to talk about one player from each team briefly, and I intend to do this every day. So every day between now and the start of the season, I want to talk about one player from each team and a storyline involving that player and maybe that team as well. So let's dive in. We're starting with the North Division. We're ending with the West. We're going to have the Central and the East in the middle because that's how they went on the board. Calgary, first up alphabetically in Canada. Johnny Gaudreau, does he have the bounce back season? That's the big question I have with Johnny Gaudreau. Does he have the bounce back season? Does he require more from Monahan to have that bounce back season? Was it all on him? Not really likely all on him, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens this season. Leon Drysettle, can he follow up last year? Last year, of course, he explodes for Art Ross and the Hart Trophy, and now this year it's, can he back that up? Can he have another season like that? We get down to Montreal and we get to Nick Suzuki. Now, during the playoffs, during the return, I became a huge fan of Nick Suzuki. I've been a fan of his all season. But against Pittsburgh and then against Philadelphia, Suzuki was looking like Patrice Bergeron. He was playing like Bergeron out there. And it was fantastic to watch as this kid just grew up during that couple of series. And it'll be interesting to see how he does this year. And I think the question I have with Suzuki is, as excellent as he is as a two-way forward, how much offense will there be? Can we look forward to a big offensive output from him? Or is it going to take a while? Remember, with Bergeron, it took till he was in his 30s before he really hit his offensive peak. Tim Stützle for Ottawa. So he's coming out of this amazing tournament he had for Germany at the World Juniors. All the momentum is with him, but he's now going to an Ottawa team. He won't have Peterka feeding him the puck or vice versa. He won't be playing with Ilya. He's going to have to get used to playing with players he hasn't played with. And so there could be a bit of a learning curve there. And keep in mind, we're not going to have exhibition games. You're just going straight into the regular season. But Stützle is that future for the Ottawa Senators. Frederick Anderson. Because the storyline with Toronto this year is, I think, going to come down to Freddie. Is Freddie sticking around? How much money does Freddie want? Get ready for all these conversations to be taking place during the season. And if Freddie gets off to a really fast start, do we end up seeing him signing a contract extension? Does he end up getting traded? What's going to happen with Frederick Anderson? And really, his play right out of the gate is going to be interesting to watch. Because I will say this, Jack Campbell is one of the most underrated backup goaltenders right now. He was good for LA. He looked good in Toronto after he got there. And with this compacted schedule, you're going to need your backup to play more often than you would during other seasons. So, Jack Campbell, we'll see whether or not he's capable of stealing some starts from Freddie. And on the goaltending note, Braden Holtby in Vancouver, for kind of sort of the same reason as I'm talking about Jack Campbell when I talk about Anderson. So, Holtby comes to Vancouver with all of his experience in a Stanley Cup ring from 2018. Demko should be the 1A, but Holtby needs to be able to play, I'll say, 25 of the games out of 56. I will go ahead and say it'll probably be like 31-25. Demko probably plays more games. I think it's going to be Demko's net. But what does Holtby do? And how does Holtby do? I think he's able to bounce back from the last couple of seasons, which by his standards were below average statistically. But again, we need to see that on the ice. And how he plays could determine where Vancouver finishes in this division. And in Winnipeg, it's going to come down to line. In my mind, Line A is going to be the most interesting story to watch there, for much the same reason as Freddie Anderson is with Toronto. Is he going to stay in Winnipeg? Are they able to make him happy? Is Stastny going to make him happy? What's going to happen with Line A? That's the big question mark for me. And so that's the North. Now we go to the Central, where a lot of these teams aren't centrally located. So, okay. Starting with Carolina, who are on the East Coast. Andrei Svetchnikov. Svetchnikov is excellent at the highlight reel goals. He makes these fantastic moves. This is the year where we may see him take that next step offensively. We may see those points and goals really explode from him. This is right around where players normally will have that increase. And then with Chicago, Dylan Strome. Why Dylan Strome? You don't have Doc. Now, Taves is out with some mystery illness that we aren't sure what's going on, how long he's going to be out. If Strome wants to make his money, he should sign a 1-year deal with Chicago right now. Just make a 1-year deal with Bowman for whatever. Go out there, and he could get all the ice time he's ever wanted, potentially put up more points than he really has any reason to do so, and cash in this coming summer. So Strome, to me, I think is a guy to watch, because now with Chicago, with Doc and Taves out, a lot of people expecting, well, Chicago should get the number 1 draft pick. They may not be any good. Strome needs to prove that he was worthy of being a top draft pick in his draft class. And I think this could be a big... I was debating about between him and DeBrincat, but with each list that I'm going to do for this, it'll be something different. And I reserve the right as well to use the same player more than once. I just have to talk about him in a different manner. Max Domi for Columbus. So Domi, what's interesting to me is the Hockey News has him listed on the left wing. They don't have him listed down the middle. And of course, Columbus has made it clear he's going to play center, and that they're keying on him being a center to back up Dubois, and that'll be your 1-2 punch. Domi needs to show that he had a down season with Montreal, and that it wasn't a great season he had the year before. That was more of who the real Max Domi is. So Domi's going to be very interesting to watch. Dallas, Roope Hintz. So Sagan's out. Bishop is out. I could have put Hudobin up here, but I'm going to go with Hintz. Because, again, for Dallas, the big question mark with them, with Sagan being out, goal scoring. And I really look forward to the day where Dallas's goal scoring is good enough that I'm not talking about their goal scoring anymore. And Hintz seems to be the guy with the most natural instincts to put the puck in the net, that hopefully we start to see more and consistent goal scoring from Hintz. There's others as well, but Hintz definitely. Detroit, Philip Hronek. Why Hronek? Because Detroit can't be as bad as they were last season. They can't. They have to be better. And as Detroit gets better, I think Hronek's standing among defensemen in the NHL will improve. I think that a lot of people are going to come around on how good Hronek can be. And I've talked about this in videos for months now, that I think there are a lot of very good defensemen. So when you're making a list of best defensemen, you're going to be leaving some excellent defensemen off that list. It's not an insult to the defenseman, it is a compliment to the league's depth and the blue line. But yeah, Hronek is one of those guys that I think will gain more and more respect as Detroit starts to get better. And as they start looking towards playoffs again, Hronek's going to be a huge part of that. Florida, I went with Owen Tippett. Now, adding Duclair might be an interesting one too, but Tippett's still going to be counted on to play a prominent role. Tippett has been cultivated by the Florida Panthers for a long while, and now we'll get to see this year whether or not their patience is rewarded, and we'll see how good Tippett really is. So that's going to be an interesting one for Florida, because a team that had no problem scoring goals last year, they did lose some goal scoring in that they lose Hoffman, they lose Dadonov, they did pick up Duclair. Can Duclair make up for that goal scoring? Not for both players, but Tippett is going to be counted on to do some of that. Eli Tolvanen for Nashville. Why? Because David Poyle says he believes that Tolvanen is going to be a top 6 forward. And I don't know with Tolvanen whether or not I see a top 6 forward based on what we've seen of him thus far. But he's still young, and it can still happen. He can still get there. So yeah, Tolvanen for me with Nashville is the interesting story there. Stamkos in Tampa, because Kucherov's out for the year. So where's Stamkos at? How good is Stamkos? Is he 100%? They didn't need him during the Stanley Cup playoffs. They got it done. Now he needs to show them, hey, and while Kucherov's out, I can man the fort, and we're good there too. And then with Point and Stamkos and Cirelli, they're pretty set down the middle. So we go on to the Eastern Division. And Boston, it's Tuukka Rask. And I remember when Tuukka Rask left the bubble, and there were people saying, that's it, he's not going to play in Boston again. Yep, he's going to play in Boston. And I think this is probably the last year of his career, and we'll see. Is he at all distracted? Does he play distracted as he did in the return in the bubble? Are his thoughts of things outside the rink, his family, and just life after hockey, are they going to distract him to the point where we see some kind of a drop in his stats? I don't think so. I really don't. I think that Rask should be solid this year. But at this stage, it'll be interesting to see. Because this is probably, I'm saying probably, I think it's going to be his last year. Just from the way he's been talking for the last year and a half. Taylor Hall in Buffalo. How could it not be Taylor Hall? So Hall's going to be wearing this. And I will say that the Buffalo on this jersey is fantastic. It's very, very well done. And I think the Sabres did a good job with going back to the right colors, although it means the hat doesn't match the jersey, but that's okay. And now Taylor Hall, he needs to prove that this one-year contract's worth it. Taylor Hall, and I agree with Nick Kyprios on this, this isn't Taylor Hall trying to get a job somewhere else. This is Taylor Hall trying to prove he can be a key guy for a team, that he can be a winner. And if this bombs out in Buffalo, that's really bad news for Taylor Hall going forward. Because then Buffalo would likely walk away from him, and then we're going to see, probably an effect on his next contract and where is he going to end up. And yeah, he's fighting for his career this year. At least that is the likelihood. New Jersey, I went with Nikita Gusev. Lindy Ruff's already come out and said he expects a 200-foot game from Gusev. Gusev likes the offense. So we'll see how things work out there. Gusev, I think, has the potential to score at a greater pace than he did this past season. Be interesting to see. Islanders, Ilya Sarokan. The Islanders have this ability to turn goaltenders around. They did it with Leonard. They did it with Grace. They did it with Varlamov. Now they've got this kid coming in Sarokan who's supposed to be very good. And we'll see again whether or not there's this goaltending magic that happens with the New York Islanders. If Sarokan comes in and it's a seamless move and his numbers and Varlamov's are the same, and would anybody be surprised? I wouldn't. And yet if Sarokan comes in and you can't even tell he's a rookie, he's playing like a veteran, then that's further reason to give praise to the goaltending of the New York Islanders and the way that it's set up. The goaltending coach and everybody in that part of the organization. With the Rangers, it's Kako. I thought about Lafreniere, but at some point I'm going to talk more about rookies. So while there is a rookie or two on the board, Kako to me is a more interesting story. In the return, they lost to Carolina in 3. But the good news for the Rangers was Kako looked very good. And he looked like he was ready to take that next step. I do kind of wish he was at the World Junior Championships. I think if you put him in the Finland lineup, I think that would have been great. And who knows, they might have been a little closer to Canada than what they were in that game. But Kako, I think, is ready to take that step. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Philadelphia, I went with Carter Hart. Why? Carter Hart is the best goaltender they've had in a long time. I've said this many times over. And now we'll get to see how, as the starter through this shortened season, after what was a very good regular season for Philadelphia, mixed bag in the playoffs, now Carter Hart will decide whether or not the Flyers will be a contender for the next, I'll say 5-10 years. With the young kids they have, like I know Voracek's older, Giroux's older, JVR, there's older players on that roster, but there's enough young kids and guys in their mid-20s that you can look at the Flyers and say, yeah, they could contend for a while to come. So yeah, Carter Hart, really interested to see how he plays this year. Pittsburgh, John Marino, fresh off of a new contract on a defense that is, I think, overly criticized. I think Pittsburgh's defense is better than it gets credit for. And Marino is a large part of the reason why. And I think he'll get a bigger responsibility. He'll get more minutes. Be interested to see how he does for Pittsburgh. And Washington, of course, it's Ovi. It's going to be Ovi because we want to see whether or not he reaches Gretzky's goal record. That's a comment that's daily. Is he going to reach Gretzky's goal record? That's another shortened schedule. He's hosed. He's not going to get it. This isn't fair. And somewhere, Gordie Howe would be saying, hey, I scored a bunch of goals in the WHA that don't count. So technically, it should still be my record. So, yeah, Ovechkin, and that closes out the Eastern. So we go to the West. And Sam Steele's the one for me with Anaheim. I thought about Zegras, but again, I don't want to get too far into all the rookies, and it's possible that with Getzlaf still on the team and Steele and other players, maybe Zegras will get brought in a little more in the bottom 6 role and play his way up more than I think what Stützle's going to do in Ottawa. I think Stützle's going to be getting prime minutes right out of the gate. So, yeah, with Anaheim, I think they're looking for that for Steele. They'll be looking for more offense from him. There are other young players in this lineup like Jones and Terry that they're going to want more points from, but I think Steele's the guy. that if it works out and it pans out, and you add Zegras to that, then Anaheim, their rebuild is on the right track. If Steele is derailed along this season, then it could take a little bit longer. Arizona, I went with Oliver Ekman Larson. So there was the Arizona wants to trade OEL. OEL said, fine, I'll only go to Boston or Vancouver, but didn't want to leave. He had no intention of leaving. And of course, he's still there. So how does he play this year? Do we see Arizona asking him again at the trade deadline for a move? Is that relationship 100%? At this point, it should be. But who knows? Once that's out of the gate, once that's open, once the team basically says we'd like to trade this player, it can be really difficult then to mend that relationship if there's a perception from the player or from the team that the relationship isn't going to work. Colorado, Brandon Saad. So Chicago fans were upset when Saad was traded. Brandon Saad, I think, could be an excellent addition for the Colorado Avalanche. And they were a team that really did their best to add to the depth that they had from a year before. So I think with adding Kadri, now with adding Saad, I think Joe Sakic has done an excellent job of continuing to build Colorado as a contender. And if they're going to get over the top, Brandon Saad being able to go out there and score them some points and goals is going to be really important. Because, again, they invested in him. And I think for Saad, I think he wants to prove that investment was wise on Colorado's behalf. Kings, Leah Anderson is already generating some buzz out of camp for LA. And it's just camp. It's just scrimmages. No big deal. But the buzz is there. And with the Kings and the amount of youth they have and the lowered expectations the Kings are facing compared to a lot of other teams in their division, Anderson could step in and get a top 6 role at least to start the season. And for the Rangers, who passed on Anderson and that relationship fell apart, Anderson may have that chip on his shoulder that sometimes players need, and it may spur him for this season. Minnesota, I went with Kirill Kaprizov. So again, not a lot of rookies on the board, but Kaprizov is really, there's been so much hype for so long from Minnesota fans, and rightfully so, that, yeah, Kaprizov, we'll see what he's made of this year. Could be very, very interesting to see whether or not all of the hype was worth that. And on some level, Marco Rossi, who's being invited to camp, we'll see where he's at. But again, there's other list videos I'm going to be doing for this with this exact same setup. And Kaprizov is, to me, the most entertaining storyline right now for Minnesota, a team that has at times been boring to watch. This year, that may not be the case. San Jose, it's Erik Carlson. Is he healthy? He can say it. The team can say it. Until we see him on the ice, and we haven't seen him on the ice in 10 months, we're going to basically reserve judgment. And, well, some will just go ahead and judge, but I'll reserve judgment. If Carlson is 100%, that changes everything for San Jose. Erik Carlson in Ottawa, when he was 100% healthy, was one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League. And I know people will point to points production and say, well, he was one of the best offensive defensemen. No, he was a great points producer, minute-munching defenseman, team captain. He did everything in Ottawa. And then it just, poof, it like Kaiser Soze, it just disappeared. And now it's a matter of him resurrecting his career, and I think he has every reason to believe in himself. He's 30 years of age, so as long as he is healthy, there's no reason to think that San Jose won't start at least getting a better return on their investment than what they had last year. St. Louis, Robert Thomas. Yes, Blues fans get excited about Thomas, I think more than Kyrou. Long term, Kyrou may end up being the better overall goal scorer, but Thomas is an excellent player, and this is a big key year for him. I think Thomas is going to hit that next level as a scorer, and for the Blues, yeah, they'll welcome that. They will. And then former Blue going to Vegas was Alex Petrangelo. How Petrangelo plays for the first time that he's out of St. Louis is going to go a long way to deciding whether or not Vegas is one of the best teams in the Western Division. If Petrangelo struggles with brand new teammates, and that can happen, it's the first time in his career he's moved to another franchise. If he has those struggles, it could hit Vegas. And I'll say straight out, I don't know how much patience there's going to be if Vegas got off to, like, I don't know, a 3-5-2 start. Like if their first 10 games of the year, they're 2 games below 500 and they're looking up at 4 teams in their division or 5 teams in their division, I don't know how much patience there's going to be. And so there's a lot of pressure on players, I think, starting with Petrangelo. There's going to be pressure on their goal scoring as well. Definitely pressure on their goaltending because the whole Leonard Fleury thing is going to rear its ugly head, especially if they get off to a slow start. But Petrangelo is the one to watch. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And which player are you most looking forward to seeing play for your favorite team or least favorite team? Which storyline are you most looking forward to this season? And again, I'll be utilizing this board with this exact same setup multiple times between now and the start of the season because there's just so much to discuss. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon.